rational equations. So the first thing that we're going to look at is if our equation is set up to solve for a variable. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do the symmetrical version so that we have the addition problem on the left is equal to the problem on the right. Now, our first step is to find a common denominator. So in order to find a common denominator, I want to come down here at the bottom here, remind you of a couple things. So if we are doing 1/2 plus 1/3, and we're looking for a common denominator, we're going to say that the common denominator is 6. But how did we get that 6? Well, what we actually did is we multiplied the two denominators together. And that's how we got our 6. So the first thing that we're going to do then is we're going to look at what is our common denominator going to look like. Well, our common denominator is going to be a multiplication problem. So we're going to take 3 fractions, and the first thing that we're going to look for is going to be the largest exponent on a variable. Largest exponent on the variable. So you'll notice that on the first one, this is m squared, m squared, m squared. Okay? Same thing where we wrote it symmetrical. So that means we're going to use m squared, m squared, m squared. The second thing that we're going to look for is the least common multiple of all of the numbers, or what we would say is the smallest number that all the numbers go into. So we're going to look at the 3, and the 1. And 3 is the smallest number that 3 and 1 go into. So we're going to do 3, 3, and 3. So you'll notice that we now have a common denominator. We're not going to look for a binomial factor because we don't have any denominator that we have to factor. We multiply to get our common denominator, which by writing them next to each other shows us the multiplication and gives us our new common denominator. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the brother-sister rule. So we're going to come up here and we're going to look at this first fraction. And we're going to look at the denominator, and we're going to notice that the denominator matches identically. So that means we do not have to multiply this fraction. We just copy down m minus 4. Now we look at this denominator. This denominator matches our new denominator exactly. So we don't have to multiply by anything. We just put the 2. Now we look at this denominator. This denominator does not match our new denominator. So just like we would do in fractions, where we multiplied the bottom by 3, we would also multiply the top by 3. Or we multiplied this one by 2, we'd also multiply this one by 2. So whatever we do on the bottom, we do on the top, we do the brother-sister rule. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. So I need to multiply the denominator by 3 to get 3m squared. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 3. So that's going to give me a new numerator of 9. Now, let's look at what we would do down here for a fraction. If I am going to do this addition problem, you'll notice that I don't do anything with the 6. The 6 just stays the same. I do the math operation with the 3 and the 2, which gives me 5. So it really doesn't matter what the denominator is because I'm doing the math operation to the numerator. So with our rational fractions, number 6 is we're just going to drop the denominator because we don't need it. So our new problem is going to be m minus 4 plus 2 is equal to 9. Now what we're going to do is solve. So we're going to go ahead and do m minus 2 is equal to 9, 0 pair, m is equal to 11. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check. So in order to check, we're going to rewrite the problem exactly the way it was. So 3 over 11 squared is equal to 11 minus 4 over 3 times 11 squared plus 2 over 3 times 11 squared. Now I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to put in 3 and 11 squared is going to give me 3 and 121st. And then I'm going to do control divide, and I'm going to do 11 minus 4, and then I'm going to do 3 times 11 squared, and that's going to give me 7 over 363 plus control divide 2 over 3 times 11 squared is going to give me 2 and 3/63. So if I do control divide, 7, 3/63 plus control divide 2, 3/63, I'm going to get 3 over 121 is equal to 3 over 121. All right, let's do the next one. So the next one is already set equal. We have our addition sign on the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for our denominators. So we're going to take a line plus line equals line. And we're going to look for the very first thing that we're going to look for is the variable. So we have an n squared, we have an n, and we have an n squared. So remember, we need the variable with the largest exponent, so that's going to be n squared, n squared, n squared. Then we're going to find the least common multiple of 2, 2, and 1, which is going to be 2, 2, and 2. Now we're going to look at the denominators. So 2n squared and 2n squared matches, so the 1 comes down. 2n does not match 2n squared. So that means I have to multiply this denominator by n, and I have to multiply this numerator by n, brother-sister rule. So that's going to give me 5n. Now I'm going to look at 2n squared, or n squared, and 2n squared. Now, just like when we were doing our expressions, you notice here that I have a binomial. That binomial needs to be put into parentheses before I convert it down into the next fraction. So I need to take this denominator and multiply it times 2. Therefore, brother and sister rule is I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2. So it's going to be 2n minus 2. All right, all of the denominators are matching now. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the denominators. So this is going to be 1 plus 5n is equal to 2 times n minus 2. So this is going to be 5n plus 1 is equal to 2n minus 4. All I did was the rainbow. Now I'm going to zero pair out the 1. Oops, sorry. I'm going to zero pair out the 2n. Are all the variables on the left? They're not. So I'm going to do 3n plus 1 is equal to negative 4. Now zero pair the 1. So I'm going to have 3n is equal to negative 5. Divide by 3, divide by 3. N is equal to negative 5/3. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to check. So in order to check, we go back to our equation, and we're going to do 1 over 2 times negative 5/3 squared plus 5 over 2 times negative 5/3 equals negative 5/3 minus 2 over negative 5/3 squared. And this is where you're going to take and we're going to use our calculator again. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our fraction, so control divide, and we're going to do 1, and then we're going to do 2 times parentheses negative 5 divided by 3 parentheses squared. And that's going to give us 9/50 plus control divide 5 divided by 2 times parentheses negative 5 divided by 3 parentheses equals. And that's going to give me negative 3/2 is equal to control divide parentheses negative 5 divided by 3 parentheses minus 2 arrow down parentheses negative 5 divided by 3 parentheses squared is equal to negative 33/25. So now I'm going to do control divide 9/50 minus control divide 3 over 2 is equal to negative 33/25. And now you know how to solve a rational expression.